just finished watching episode 4 of Sister Wives from season 19, and I want to talk about this extended fight we had, because kind of the way I felt about it was initially I was like, there are aspects of this fight that I think are accurate. And Robyn, of course, is really dragging him through this. But after it kept going, like 5, 10, just kept going, I was like, there's something really off. Well, first of all, they just keep saying the same thing. It doesn't seem to have the growth that a normal fight does. Like when you normally fight with someone, it kind of grows and expands and twists and turns. And instead, it just kept coming back. Your kids need you. Your kids need you. And I was like, more and more, I started to feel like this was a performance for an audience of us, and trying to convince us so that when we could say things like, well, you can't fault Robyn. She's trying so hard. She fought so hard. There was that big scene where all she did is said, Kody, your kids need you. They need you. They're, and she was crying. And that's how I think she thought we would have it. And then also that feeling grew more and more intense as I felt like it was a performance for us, because then she started saying things like, the kids don't understand. They're listening to people that don't understand. They think I made the COVID rules. And I was like, okay, we need to stop, and it really felt like in some ways it reminds me of the One Big House fight. So if you watch that episode, you know that when Kody presented the One Big House idea, Robyn did not look thrilled. In fact, the only person who stood up and said, yes, this is a good idea, was Janelle, and she was quite adamant about it. Mary said flat out, I'm not putting my opinion in until I see how this goes. I think Robyn was against it. But Christine was so loud that Robyn was sort of like just stayed back. And then the history of the show is now that Christine was against the big house, and nobody talks about the fact, nobody on the show talks about the fact that I don't think Robyn was involved in it. And that's kind of what I feel like this is. She's like, you need to make up with these kids. You need to make up with these kids, fully knowing it's not going to happen. And they're saying things like, those kids think that you weren't ever there. And I'm like, we know you weren't there. You fully admitted that you spent more time at Robyn's because she's loyal. You talked about how your car was always at her garage, that your office was at her place in Vegas, that he talked about always wanting to tuck the kids in and always wanting to take the kids to school in the morning. Janelle and Christine have both said, he would show up real late, go to bed, go to sleep, get up early, leave, but now I feel like in some ways this fight was, I'm not saying that there aren't aspects of it that are true, but it really felt like it was a performance to convince us that Robyn is so deeply invested in fixing this family, and nobody can blame her. Now, on him, on the other hand, he is so angry, he doesn't care. He's like, I'm going to drag these kids for filth. I'm going to mention, and by the way, I want to point out, Kody's been teetering, he's said that he never loved Mary for years now. He's now said for about 3 or 4 years he never loved Christine. He's been teetering with Janelle about whether he actually loved her or not, because I think it was last season or the season before, he explicitly said, I loved Janelle before, I can love her again if she just works to reconcile. So he's admitted he loved her, but then he started with the begging to get into the family. And now he is firmly on the I never loved your mother, because he's saying that's why the kids are mad, is because they couldn't love their mother. And then he specifically calls out a few kids. So he is now very firmly in the camp of I never loved any of my original wives, which we all predicted. When he started doing this with Christine, we're like, oh, it's only inevitable he's going to start doing this with Janelle. And sure enough, that he is firmly in that camp. Although every once in a while he'll make offhand comments where he forgets that he never loved Janelle, and then he'll say stuff. But yeah, I found that whole fight section to be brutal. And the longer it went, the less I was buying any of it. At first I was like, aspects of this fight, this might be a dramatic reenactment of their fight. I don't believe they're really fighting, but there could be aspects that are truthful. And the longer it went on, and the more they thought I made the COVID rules, and they believe people, when they make up lies about you, the more that went on, the more I was like, okay, never mind. I don't know if I believe any of this. So tell me, do you believe them at all? Is it 5% truth, 95% performance? Is it 0? 100, what do you think? And are you convinced? I've seen people start to talk about how people are being too difficult on Robyn and Kody. So are you in that camp? I'm not. But if you are, that's fine.